the air in the village of Kyamate began to shift once more. We welcome you once again to Folktales with Shafi, the final part of The Wicked Woman in the Village. The nights felt longer, heavier, and the moon hanging in the sky looked tired, as if weary from watching over them. Mama Kato felt a familiar prickle of unease on her skin. She knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her bones, that something was wrong. But when she tried to warn the others, her words fell on deaf ears. They were celebrating, convinced the wicked woman was gone for good, a bad dream they had finally woken up from. Meanwhile, little Naka continued her evening rituals by the river. It was her favorite place. She'd sing sweet, made-up songs to the fish that darted beneath the surface and delight in the tiny splashes made by the stones she threw. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, her eyes caught a familiar glint in the mud. It was the golden shell. She picked it up. It felt strangely warm in her small hands, and when she held it close to her ear, she heard a soft, melodic song whispering from within, like a mother singing a lullaby to her child. That night, Naka had a vivid dream. A tall, graceful woman, dressed in a flowing red gown, stood by the ancient, gnarled tree at the edge of the forest. The woman's smile was kind, not menacing. "Naka," she said, her voice like the gentle rustling of leaves. "You are a good child. Keep the shell safe. It will protect you." When Naka awoke the next morning, a feeling of pure happiness washed over her. She decided to keep the dream, and the shell, her special secret. But soon, the strange occurrences returned, creeping back into the village like a fog. The goats, usually eager for a drink, would bleat and refuse to go anywhere near the river. Flocks of birds, once a constant, cheerful presence, suddenly took flight and disappeared from the skies. And at night, when the village was supposed to be silent, a chilling, disembodied laughter would echo from the depths of the forest, carried on the wind. Worried, Mama Kato paid a visit to Naka's mother. "Has your daughter seen anything strange lately?" she asked, her voice low and urgent. Naka's mother, oblivious, simply smiled. "Oh no, she's perfectly fine. In fact, she's been so happy, she even found this beautiful shell by the river. Look." She held it out for Mama Kato to see. The moment Mama Kato's eyes landed on the golden object, they widened in horror. "Oh no," she cried, her voice trembling. "Not that shell." She lunged for it, desperate to snatch it away, but Naka clutched it to her chest possessively. "It's mine," she shouted, her small face defiant. In that instant, the shell erupted in a blinding, golden light. A furious wind tore through the small hut, sending pots, mats, and baskets flying. The light was so intense, it hurt to look at. When it finally subsided, Naka was still standing, but her eyes were shining with an unnatural, ancient light. She spoke, but the voice that came out was not her own. It was soft, yet deep and resonant with power. "Why do you fear me, old woman?" it said. "I only want to live." Mama Kato stumbled back, falling to her knees on the dirt floor. She recognized the presence, the spirit that had haunted them. "Nambi," she pleaded, "leave this child. She is innocent." But the spirit that now possessed Naka only laughed, a sound that was both beautiful and terrifying. "You tried to bury me in the river's mud, but you cannot bury life. Now I will grow through her, like a vine through a crack in a stone." That night, the sky itself seemed to break. A deafening crack of thunder split the heavens, and a bolt of lightning struck the big, ancient tree, splitting its massive trunk wide open. Thick, black smoke billowed out from the wound. The river, once a source of life, swelled with rage, its waters overflowing the banks, and flooding the huts in the lower part of the village. The next morning, a chilling silence hung over Kyamate. Naka walked into the village square, the golden shell still held tightly in her hand. Her voice, when she spoke, was a terrifying echo, as if three people were speaking at once, layered and powerful. "This land is mine now," she declared, "and those who betrayed me will pay." People screamed in terror, scattering in every direction. But Chief Seer, his face grim, stood his ground. "You will not destroy this place, Nambi," he said, his voice firm despite the fear he felt. "We will fight for our home." Mama Kato, trembling but resolute, stepped forward to stand beside him. "We cannot fight her with spears and arrows," she said, her voice cutting through the panic. "We must fight her with something stronger. We must fight her with truth." She turned her gaze directly to the possessed child. Her voice rang out across the square, filled with a strength she didn't know she had. "Nambi, tell them why you are so angry." The wind suddenly stopped. The air grew heavy and still. Naka's small body trembled violently, and then Nambi's true voice, raw with centuries of pain, poured from her mouth. "They burned my mother," she cried out. "They called her a witch because she healed the sick with herbs from the forest. They chased me, a terrified child, into the woods. I ran to the river and cried until I had no tears left. The river spirit heard my sorrow and took me in, cradled me in its depths, and gave me its power. I only wanted to protect this land, to use my gifts for good, but your fear turned me into the monster you call wicked." A profound, heavy silence fell over the villagers. The truth, sharp and painful, cut deep into their hearts. Chief Seer bowed his head in shame. "It was our ancestors who committed that terrible act," he said softly, his voice thick with remorse. "We are sorry." Nambi's voice broke, a sob catching in her throat. "Sorry cannot bring back what I have lost." It was then that Mama Kato lifted her hands, not in surrender, but in offering. "No," she said gently, "but forgiveness can bring peace." The sky rumbled, a low, mournful sound. Tears, real human tears, began to stream down Naka's face. Nambi spoke again, her voice softer, stripped of its anger. "If I forgive, will you remember me? Will you remember me with kindness?" "Yes," Mama Kato promised, her own eyes filling with tears. "We will tell your story to our children and our children's children. You will no longer be the wicked woman of the river. You will be Nambi, the woman who loved her people too deeply." As she spoke these words, the golden shell in Naka's hand began to glow, then crack. A brilliant light, like a river of liquid gold, poured out of it. The wind that swirled around them was no longer cold and angry, but warm and gentle, like a caress. Nambi's voice whispered on that wind one last time, a single, grateful phrase, "Thank you." The light spread across the entire village, a wave of warmth and peace, washing away the fear, the sickness, and the dark, bitter memories. When the light finally faded, the shell was gone. Naka, exhausted, collapsed into Mama Kato's waiting arms, fast asleep and finally safe. In the days that followed, Kyamate was transformed. The river ran clear and sparkled brighter than ever before. Where the lightning had split the ancient tree, a garden of beautiful, unknown flowers began to bloom. The people danced and sang, their joy echoing through the valley. Chief Seer gathered the villagers. "Let us build a small shrine by the river," he announced. "Not as a monument to fear, but as a place of remembrance." They built it with smooth white stones from the riverbed, and on it they carefully carved the words, "Nambi, the woman of the river. She taught us that power without love is lost." Years passed, Naka grew into a kind and wise young woman, becoming a healer, just as Nambi's mother had been. She tended to the sick, shared food with the poor, and gathered the village children to tell them stories. And on nights of the full moon, when the river shimmered like a silver path, people would swear they could see the faint outline of a woman in red, smiling peacefully from the water's surface, her spirit finally at rest. Mama Kato lived a long and full life, long enough to see her village thriving in happiness and peace. One of her last lessons to the children was this: evil only ends when love learns to speak louder than fear. And from that day forward, the people of Kyamate never feared the forest or the river again. The drums in the village beat only for celebrations of joy. The river sang a soft, gentle song. And the story of the wicked woman was forever changed into the story of the brave one, the woman who, through forgiveness, finally found her peace.